and welcome to the program. I'm Miriam Korowa. The live cattle export ban may have been lifted, but some Queensland producers are still trying to make up for the pause. The country's only all-Indigenous cattle station in the Gulf has slashed its workforce. Reporter Penny Timms visited Delta Downs and filed this report from Normanton.
Delta Downs has a long and proud history. 30 years ago, it became the first Australian cattle station to be leased and run by traditional owners. It weathered a political and racial storm at the time. Then Premier Joe Bjelke-Petersen threatened to refuse to renew the lease. But within 2 decades, the traditional owners had proven the naysayers wrong. Delta Downs had become one of the top cattle stations in the country, stretching almost 400,000 hectares, including 120 kilometres of Gulf of Carpentaria coastal frontage. It runs around 41,000 head of cattle. Manager Paul Edwards says it's built on strong community foundations. For the most part, only local Indigenous workers are employed here. And that's providing real opportunity. Many of those who work on the station have troubled pasts or are considered in an at-risk category. Some continue to grapple with the law. Delta is a safe haven away from drugs and alcohol.
It's very important in employment and upskilling our people for the outside. We build their confidence up in themselves.
But the property predominantly provides steers and cull females for the live export trade, and the owners say the federal government's ban on live cattle exports to Indonesia has put all that at risk.
If we was given 3 months or 4 months to prepare for the ban, it wouldn't have been as hard as it was, and we would have probably pushed through, you know. But to ban something in 5 minutes with a drop of the hat is no good, not for the cattle industry.
The ban, imposed because of cruelty in some Indonesian abattoirs, was lifted after 1 month. But that was long enough to interrupt the supply chain. Delta Downs practically neighbours a live export facility at the port of Corumba. But that outlet was closed to them, and paying to freight stock to southern markets was something those here never banked on.
It's been huge. It's virtually been one season gone. The exporter that operates out of here is only a small guy, so he's not a Wellard or an Elders. So he didn't come back online until about end of September, which is pretty much at the end of our selling season anyhow, or our cattle are getting too heavy over that 350 kilos. So we virtually lost a season.
It was a blow the Gulf graziers didn't need. They were just seeing some recovery from back-to-back destructive wet seasons.
We thought we were just coming out of it, and with the drop of the hat with the live export with the ban on us, that really killed us. You can see a flood coming, you can see water coming, but you can't see a ban like that from the government in 5 minutes. So we had to pay staff off early.
The combined impact has been heartbreaking for the close-knit community.
You know, it's pretty simple business. When your income doesn't match up, you know, your costs have got to go down. And obviously wages is one of the big ticket items in any budget. So it's normally the first thing that gets slashed.
Delta Downs usually hires around 30 stock hands. Half have been laid off. Management at Delta Downs is concerned it won't be able to rehire much of its workforce until April next year. That's around 5 or 6 months unemployment for many of its workers who were sourced locally from Normanton.
Now they're sitting, I say that they're living from Centrelink Day to Centrelink Day, drinking alcohol and just partying with what they got, I suppose. Where they should have been here working and looking forward to Christmas with money in their bank account.
And the usual wet season layoff of 3 months has had to be extended. But in most cases, the workers are also the breadwinners for their families, not to mention highly talented stockmen.
Most of the guys that incredible workers sitting in jail, and it's wrong. Well, they should have been sitting here and upskilling our younger people that's down coming up to the ranks.
With yet another wet season imminent, little can be done to turn things around now. But at Delta Downs, as always, they'll look to the future.
They always say that something bad, something good comes out of it. We have to wait for the good, so hopefully the cattle prices come up so we can get out of debt.
It's tough and costly, but does it work? The federal government's $45 million plan to boost Indigenous school attendance rates has been trialled in 11 Northern Territory schools. It sees welfare cuts for parents who don't send their children to school. But recent attendance figures show little improvement in those schools where the trial's been running for 3 years.
Getting children to school can be a struggle at Xavier College on the Tiwi Islands north of Darwin.
We've got 99 on the roll. We have 65 maximum come to school each day.
It's a problem right across remote Northern Territory communities. Figures show 13% of Indigenous children aren't even enrolled in a school.
There's probably around 2,000 children who are of school age but aren't even enrolled in school.
For the past 3 years, Xavier School has been trialling a federal government program to get more Indigenous children to school. It's known as the Singh trial, and parents face having their welfare cut if their child isn't attending.
We send off the attendance and then it's processed by the Centrelink agencies. They collect the data and then they counsel the parents, etc. Now, that's what it's meant to be. I can't honestly say that's happened.
The latest Northern Territory Education Department figures show attendance in most of the 11 Singh trial schools hasn't improved. Despite this, the federal government's spending $45 million over the next 3 years, expanding this program to another 16 locations in the Territory.
It's time we took some of the measures that we know are hard, but it is about saying to parents, saying to everybody, let's do everything we can to get these kids to school every single day.
Legislation to enforce these measures will be introduced into federal parliament this week.
Mutijulu sits in the shadow of Uluru, and its residents say they're in the dark about the future of housing and Shire services. The corporation that provides housing services has suddenly pulled the pin, leaving the Territory government to step in, promising to do emergency repairs while a new contractor is found. Residents say the Territory government and the Macdonald Shire have failed the community, and the future of the night patrol and rubbish collection are in doubt. The group is angling to take over running the community and get a slice of GST revenue to fund it.
We've got a big bloody rock out here. How much does that bring to the Northern Territory and the state's economy?
The local government department has not been advised about any plans to cut other services at Mutijulu. A mining company is facing legal action over the destruction of a sacred Aboriginal site near Tennant Creek. The Aboriginal Areas Protection Authority has charged OM Manganese with 2 offences for causing the site on a rocky outdrop to collapse into the company's open-cut pit mine at Banka Banka Station in the Barkly region. OM Manganese could be forced to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars in fines. The Protection Authority says the mining company was aware of the site's location and significance. Australia's longest-running Aboriginal land claim is a step closer to being settled. The Northern Territory Parliament has passed legislation to set up a trust fund for traditional owners involved in the Kenby land claim. But there have been accusations of cash payments and cover-ups, as Anna Henderson reports.
A historic bill has passed.
Those of that opinion say aye. Contrary, no. I think the ayes have it.
But not without a fight.
The culture of cover-up, Madam Speaker, as I said, is alive and well.
With accusations that crucial information on the Kenby land claim process has been hidden.
The Chief Minister now has a chance to stand up and put some meat on the bones and give us a bit of detail about what exactly it is that he, Jenny Macklin, and the Northern Land Council have cooked up.
There is no cover-up here. There's no cash windfall, no secret deal.
The Kenby land claim was lodged in 1979 for a parcel of land just outside Darwin. The land has cultural significance to the Larrakia people and it's prime real estate.
Who's going to stay on the land? Who's going to be left off the land? Who gets to develop the place?
I won't be provocative and say because they want to fight the land claim again, but they're the only ones saying no.
This bill is to establish a trust fund for the traditional owners. The independent with the balance of power, Gerry Wood, took the government's side, but not without serious reservations about whether the well-educated and influential among traditional owners are getting all the perks.
I do feel that sometimes in a lot of the discussions about land rights in this area that sometimes the weaker people have been overlooked.
This legislation is another step towards settling Australia's longest-running Aboriginal land claim. Now the ball is in the Northern Land Council's court and it will have to decide which traditional owners will be able to access the trust fund.
A senior traditional owner at the centre of the Kenby land claim has hit out at recent Territory Government legislation to settle Australia's longest-running land claim. Raylene Singh says she wasn't consulted by the government when they passed a bill to set up the Kenby Land Trust. The Chief Minister, Paul Henderson, says she'd been spoken to before the legislation was passed and other traditional owners' concerns about the claim had been settled. But Ms Singh said the meeting never happened and she doesn't support the legislation.
It's going to ruin my land and it's going to even disturb the dreaming sites that are along the northwest coastline of the Cox Peninsula.
The body representing traditional owners, the Northern Land Council, is welcoming the legislation, saying it'll drive economic expansion in the Cox Peninsula. And that's all for this episode of the Indigenous Quarter. I'm Miriam Korowa. Catch you next time.